It was the kind of night that carved silence into the bones of the world, bitter, windless, and heavy with dread. Officer Daniel Reeves stood frozen in his doorway, snow stinging his cheeks, breath caught in his throat. Before him, drenched in ice and trembling from the storm, stood his canine partner Coda. But this time, the German Shepherd wasn't alone. Gently cradled in his jaws was a tiny, motionless puppy, its fur glazed with frost, its body limp as winter branches. Daniel's pulse hammered against his ribs. At first, he feared the worst, that this was another life claimed by the blizzard. But then Coda whimpered low and aching, and nudged the pup toward him with desperate eyes that seemed to plead. Save it. Where had Coda found it? Why had he vanished into the white void alone? And what had driven him to risk everything for a stranger's child? What the dog did next would unearth a truth buried beneath the snow. A story so raw, so tender, it would echo across continents and melt hardened hearts from Tokyo to Toronto. Stay with us, because this night didn't just save lives. It redefined them. If your heart just dropped like mine did, do me a quick favor. Hit like, share this story, and subscribe so you never miss a moment like this. And I'm genuinely curious, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. Stories like this deserve to travel farther than any storm. The cabin sat nestled deep in the Colorado Rockies, wrapped in pines and silence. Inside, the fire whispered secrets to the shadows, casting amber light over Daniel's tired face. His badge gleamed on the table beside a half-finished cup of coffee, steam long gone. Coda lay near the hearth, ears pricked at every distant shift in the forest. It was supposed to be Daniel's first night off in weeks, just him, his thoughts, and the quiet company of his partner. But the air outside felt wrong, not just cold, but watchful, as if the mountains themselves were holding their breath. Daniel leaned back, listening to the absence of sound, when suddenly Coda's head snapped up. His muscles coiled, eyes locked on the front door. No growl, no bark, just pure electric tension. "What is it, boy?" Daniel asked softly. Coda didn't answer. He never did with words, but his silence spoke volumes. Then came the scratching. Faint at first, like twigs scraping wood, then sharper, frantic, desperate. Daniel's hand instinctively went to his belt, though he wore no weapon tonight. He grabbed a flashlight, heart thudding, and moved toward the door. Coda stood now, tail rigid, a single sharp bark cutting through the stillness. Daniel unlatched the door, and a blast of icy wind roared in, scattering snow across the floor. "Hello," he called into the white void. Nothing but swirling snow and howling pines. He was about to shut it when Coda bolted out into the storm without hesitation. Coda, come back." Daniel shouted, stepping after him. But the dog was already gone, swallowed by the blizzard's maw, boots sinking, flashlight beams slicing through chaos. Daniel strained his eyes. Minutes stretched like hours. Panic clawed at his chest. Coda had never run off like this. Then through the wind's shriek, a bark, distant, urgent, guiding. Daniel turned toward it, gripping the flashlight tighter. Something was out there, and Coda was bringing it home. The storm relented just enough to reveal a dark shape stumbling through the snow. Coda!" Daniel cried. The German Shepherd emerged, soaked to the bone, eyes burning with exhaustion and purpose. And in his mouth, so carefully, so gently, was the small frozen form of a puppy. Not a toy, not debris. A life clinging by a thread. Daniel's breath vanished. He dropped to his knees as Coda reached the porch, laying the pup on the wooden planks with infinite care. "Good boy, come on, buddy," Daniel murmured, swinging the door wide. Inside, warmth wrapped around them like a prom. The puppy lay motionless on the rug, fur stiff with ice, breath invisible. Daniel peeled off his gloves, fingers numb with fear. No pulse, no movement, just cold, devastating cold. But Coda whined, nudging the tiny body with his nose, refusing to accept defeat. That look in his eyes, the same one Daniel had seen in burning buildings and floodwaters, told him this wasn't over. He grabbed towels, stoked the fire, and began the slow, sacred work of bringing life back from the edge. Minutes bled together. Quake. Daniel rubbed the pup's chest, wrapped it near the flames, dabbed warm water on its paws. Coda stayed close, sharing his heat, his eyes never leaving the fragile form. Then a twitch, a whisper of movement in a tiny paw. Did you see that? Daniel breathed. The dog's tail gave one soft thump. Hope flickered. Daniel leaned closer, whispering, "Hang in there, little one. You made it this far." Outside, the storm raged. But inside, a miracle stirred, one shallow breath at a time. The pup whimpered. Then again, stronger. Daniel's throat tightened. "Ah, that's it. You're a fighter." Coda licked its face, nose brushing its ear. The bond was already forming. Not rescuer and rescued, but protector and protected. Dawn broke pale and quiet. The storm finally spent. Daniel woke stiff on the floor, eyes darting to the hearth. The pup slept soundly, curled against Coda's side, breathing steady and warm. But Coda wasn't resting. The moment Daniel stirred, the dog rose, walked to the door, and pawed at it insistently. "What now, boy?" Daniel asked. Coda's gaze was sharp, focused, not curious but certain. This wasn't a whim. It was a mission. Daniel sighed, pulled on his coat, and glanced at the sleeping pup. "All right, but we're quick." Coda barked once, firm understanding. Outside, the world glittered under fresh snow, except for one path, Coda's tracks, and smaller ones beside them. They followed the trail deep into the pines where the snow looked disturbed near a fallen aspen. Daniel brushed away the frost, and his heart stopped. A shallow den. 2 more puppies, half buried, and beside them the still form of their mother, frozen in her final act of love. One pup stirred faintly. Coda whined, pressing his nose to the snow. "Oh no," Daniel whispered. "We're not done yet." He wrapped the living pup in his jacket, then Coda darted ahead, barking toward a snowdrift near the tree's roots. Daniel dug with bare hands, fingers burning, until he uncovered a 4th pup, smaller, colder, unmoving. He pressed it to his chest beside the other, whispering, "Come on, please." Coda circled, checking, guarding, guiding. When Daniel looked back at the mother, her eyes half open, forever watching over her young, something broke inside him. "You did your best," he murmured. "We'll take care of them now." Coda leaned against his leg, silent, solid, steadfast. Together, man and dog turned toward home, carrying what remained of a family through the white silence. The wind returned with fury as they trudged back, snow slashing like knives. Daniel's boots sank deep, muscles screaming, but the tiny heartbeats against his chest kept him moving. Coda led without faltering, barking directions through the whiteout. Daniel stumbled, fell hard, but shielded the pups with his body. "Easy. I've got you," he gasped, rising again. Then a glow, faint orange through the storm. "There it is, Coda. Go!" The dog sprinted ahead, barking urgently. They burst into the cabin, slamming the door on the chaos. Daniel dropped to his knees by the fire, unwrapping the pups, placing them near the embers. "Come on, little ones," he whispered, voice raw. Coda curled around him instantly, a living blanket of warmth and will. One by one, they stirred. Tiny squeaks, weak shivers, then slow, steady breaths. Relief crashed over Daniel like a wave. They'd made it. For now, the battle wasn't won, but life still had a chance. Daniel worked through the morning, hands steady despite exhaustion. Towels, warm milk, gentle rubs, every motion precise, practiced. Coda watched every move, occasionally nudging a pup with his nose, checking, comforting. Then the first twitch, a head lifted, eyes blinking. That's it, Daniel whispered. The second followed, then the third, then the fourth, all breathing, all fighting. Daniel dipped his fingers in warm milk, tiny tongues licked eagerly. Coda's tail thumped softly against the rug, once, twice, silent victory. Daniel leaned back, tears welling. "You did this," he said, stroking Coda's head. The dog looked up, calm, deep-eyed, as if to say, "No, we did." And in that quiet cabin filled with the soft sounds of new life, Daniel smiled, not as an officer, but as a man who just witnessed love win against impossible odds. By midday, sunlight poured through frosted windows, painting the room in gold. Daniel snapped a photo. Coda curled protectively around 4 sleepy pups, firelight glowing on their fur. He posted it online with a simple caption, "Last night, my canine partner walked into a blizzard and came back with 4 souls. He didn't ask for thanks. He just asked us to care. He expected a few likes. Instead, his phone exploded. Thousands of shares." Messages flooded in. Coda's an angel. This made me cry at work. My shelter is donating in his name. News vans arrived by afternoon. Reporters called it rescue that healed the world. A child mailed a drawing of Coda with a halo. A veteran wrote, "This reminded me why I served." Fame meant nothing to Coda. He stayed by the pups, licking their ears, guarding their sleep. But Daniel read the comments aloud anyway, voice thick. "They're talking about you, buddy." Coda wagged his tail once, then went back to his duty. Because to him, this was never about glory. It was about love. Days turned to weeks. The pups grew stronger, tumbling, barking, chasing Coda's tail. One mimicked his stance. Another stole Daniel's socks. The calmest sat by the fire, watching the world with wise eyes. Adoption offers poured in, but every time Daniel looked at Coda curled around them, he knew. "They're staying," he said one evening, hand on Coda's head. "This is their home." Coda huffed softly. Approval, peace. Outside, snow began to melt. Inside, a family had formed, not by plan, but by choice. By courage. By a dog who walked into a storm and refused to come back alone. Now, months later, spring paints the mountains green. Daniel sits on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the 4 pups race through wild flowers, Coda trotting proudly among them. They're no longer fragile, they're fierce. Joyful, whole. He thinks back to that frozen night, the fear, the race against time, the weight of those tiny bodies in his arms, and he smiles. You really did change everything, didn't you, buddy?" Coda looks up, tail wagging, eyes saying everything words cannot. One pup barrels into Daniel's lap, licking his chin. "Easy there, soldier," he chuckles. "You're just like your dad." As the sun sets, casting long shadows over the field, Daniel whispers to the wind, "Sometimes heroes wear badges, and sometimes they wear fur." Coda barks once, soft, proud, then runs after his pups, his legacy written not in headlines, but in heartbeats. That winter night didn't just save 4 lives. It reminded the world that even in the coldest dark, love always finds a way home.